Well, what do you know? The Maniacs are back, and we are going to talk about this great game last night between the Atlanta Falcons versus our Washington Commanders, and that starts right now. And folks, welcome back to another podcast here on the Washington Football Maniacs channel. I am your host, Greg Sykes, along with my best buddy, Brandon Scott. And if you're new to this channel, of course, we talk about the Washington Redskins, Commanders. Um, we call them anything, but we really like to call them winners. And so that's what I want to call them. And they were winners last night. So we're going to get into this, but please make sure that you have subscribed to this channel. Also, when you do, hit that notification bell, but also make sure if you do hit that notification bell, you get notified for all videos, not just videos that YouTube wants to suggest to you, because then they may not suggest anything to you, right? So make sure you get notified for all of those videos. Now, that being said, let's get that out of the way. So Brandon, last night, um, primetime game. I love primetime games, even though that I feel like I don't ever really sleep too well, and I didn't sleep that well last night. Had to get up kind of early this morning, but um, the Washington Commanders have found themselves a franchise quarterback. I think there's no doubt in that whatsoever. Probably going to be offensive rookie of the year. I think that's wrapped up. There's been some buzz about could he be in the consideration for MVP. I don't know. I think Lamar Jackson may have that wrapped up. Who knows? But it is kind of flattering to even mention Jaden within MVP talks. I think he's got a long career ahead of him, and many chances to be MVP, so I'm not too worried about that. But last night, tough game, very good game. Could have went either way. Some poor officiating, but that seems to, in a season where I really felt overall the officiating has been somewhat better. The last few games, at least the last couple of games, have been kind of awful. Different officiating crews, but you don't see a consistency across the board, and that's something I would like for the NFL to look at and continue, because you get some crews who want to call everything pass interference. You want to have other crews who want to call all offensive holding on almost every single play, especially big plays. And that seems like that's what was happening to the Commanders last night. But that being said, Jaden Daniels really took over. He took the team on his shoulders. Yeah. I mean, there's no two cents, or there's no two ways from it. He did that, and even though you did see B-Rob have a few good runs, B-Rob really hasn't been much of a factor in the last couple of games. He got pretty much shut out last week, and so Jaden had to put the team on his hands or on his shoulders. And again, the same way against the Falcons. It was really the Jaden Daniels show in the second half of that game. He just took it over. They shut down Terry McLaurin. He only had like one catch last night. So being able to turn to guys like Zacchaeus and Jamison Crowder, guys like that. But I mean, Zacchaeus had a huge game last night. Big game. Zach Ertz had a big game last night. He unlocked more incentives, so he got paid handsomely for last night as well. But the Commanders beaten the Atlanta Falcons 30-24 in overtime. Had to go in overtime to get it done, but they did. So, Brandon, your thoughts on last night's game? We're in the playoffs. What do you think moving forward? What will the Commanders need to do to get ready for the playoffs? But talk about the game first.
Oh man, good question. The game was immaculate. I mean, tough game, and these are the type of games you want to, when you want to win. against a team like the Falcons, where they're a team that had playoff aspirations. I know they had a quarterback change between Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix Jr., but they're a team that definitely was gearing up for the playoffs themselves. But I mean, start with Jaden Daniels, unreal. I mean, the young man is unreal. I mean, phenomenal quarterback. I mean, his intellect is his football IQ is through the roof. His ability to kind of just make these crazy throws and position himself in the best positions to utilize the weapons he has. I mean, that first touchdown to Zacchaeus thrown across his body, man, was unreal. I mean, the kid on the field is we found our franchise quarterback. We've been waiting 20 some years for a legit franchise quarterback, and the kid checks all the boxes. He can run. He can run with vision. He can throw the ball from the pocket. He can throw on the run. I mean, he can do it all. I mean, and you look at his football IQ, his leadership, his savviness under pressure. He checks all the boxes. I mean, the kid is going to be he's going to be an MVP. He's going to be MVP candidate for years to come because just his savviness, his ability to stay cool under pressure, to me are just as important as his physical attributes of, his ability to throw the deep ball, throw accurate balls. I mean, he's a good quarterback. He's a great quarterback. Year one rookie. Again, like I said, he's an impressive quarterback just because of what he can do on the field. But to me, the coolness, the leadership, the mental factor of football is what impresses me the most about Jaden Daniels because, he knows how to make the right decisions on the field. We found our guy. I mean, he's going to be a MVP candidate going forward. He definitely gets my first game ball from last night. I mean, looking at the stats real quick: 24 for 36, 227 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 5 sacks, but we ain't tripping, and 100.1 quarterback rating. But not only that, 16 carries for 127 yards. I mean, he did everything, man. I mean, he ran the ball, he threw the ball. I mean, I'm pretty sure he pulled security. I mean, he did it. He did everything in Northwest Stadium, man. I mean, and he's just we found our guy. And not only that, other factors. Very humble young man. You see a lot of the holiday season, him doing a lot of stuff off the field. You definitely like to see that. Really good young man. Really, really good hit on the shoulders, not only on the field but off the field. He checks all the boxes. Jane Daniels to me is just the real deal in so many different areas. Other people to look at, like you already mentioned it, is Zacchaeus, 8 receptions for 85 yards, 1 touchdown, 9 targets. So he has emerged as a really good receiver for the Commanders. Like you said, Terry McLaurin was knocked out the game. So Zacchaeus came in and really filled that void. Because you best believe they're going to make Terry McLaurin their focus on the secondary. So I kind of expected they were going to play tough on him. You kind of saw it in the first half where they really forced Jaden Daniels to either throw the ball away or to make hard decisions. So their secondary knew what it was. They took Terry McLaurin out of the game. And I think that was a good decision on their part. Because if I'm game planning against Commanders, I'm definitely taking Scary Terry out of the equation. But not only Zacchaeus, I mean, Zach Ertz, you already mentioned 6 receptions, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 7 targets. He's been playing really good football. I like the fact that him and Nick Sirianni got into the last game after the game, but he has really proven his worth. A guy who we didn't know really what to expect from Zach Ertz. He's a veteran tight end. Kind of up and down performances in Arizona, going back. He played well in Philly, so we knew that. We didn't know what to expect, but he's played well. He's played well here in DC. So the third game ball, because I'm gonna give it to the guys and Ertz for the second game ball. The third one is Quan Martin. Come on now, that interception and the 7 tackles. The secondary is not as bad as it was, man. I mean, obviously you add Marshawn Lattimore. You got Sam Still, who looks like he's definitely going to be a really good guy opposite of Lattimore, even though I think he really fits well in the slot in the secondary. And I think you still go out there and get another corner. But Quan Martin is another great piece of the secondary. I mean, the secondary, we still have, and here's the thing, Greg, is that we still have a little bit of work to do as far as the roster construction, but we're heading in the right direction. If we still, here's the thing, if we still need work and we won 11 games, what does it really truly tell you about the ceiling of this team? This team's going to be a Super Bowl contender year in, year out for the next 10 years, in my opinion, if all goes well. Because, again, if you have holes in your roster construction and you still won 11 games, potentially 12 games, it tells you we're definitely cooking with grease. I mean, we're headed in the right direction. So, I mean, you got to give flowers to this organization. Josh Harris did all of this in his second year. You got a first-time general manager in Adam Peters. You have a first-time, well, not first-time head coach, but new head coach and new coaching staff in Dan Quinn. And just not forget that Jaden Daniels is a rookie. I mean, we were able to get a guy in the draft who has high football IQ. And his rookie year, he's already playing at this level. The sky's the limit for this team, and we deserve this as a fan base. We went through 20 plus years, and like I said, for older fans like yourself, you remember those Super Bowl years. Like I was alive, but I was a kid. I was just thinking about juice boxes. I ain't thinking about Super Bowls, but you remember the past glory. You've watched the struggle that you've seen younger fans like myself sit through 20 years of mediocrity under Dan Snyder, and he was a problem the whole time. Josh Harris did this in what, 2 years? I mean, Dan Snyder had 20 some years and ran this franchise into the ground, man. In 2 years, Josh Harris is in the position to bring the Commanders back into DC and build a new stadium. In 2 years, you've got a playoff team. In 2 years, you found a franchise quarterback. In 2 years, you went out there and got a legitimate head coach with a legitimate coaching staff. In 2 years, Greg, he found a legitimate GM. He has rebuilt this team in 2 years. Give the flowers up to Josh Harris. He came in here and he is exactly what we needed in the 202, aka Washington, D.C.
Yeah, it is very amazing because honestly, and what I'll probably do is go back and do like a video where we kind of look back on what we were talking about before the season. I
Yeah.
know both of us were saying 7 wins, and I think we both would have been very happy with 7 wins just because of how horrid this team was last year,
Yeah.
and for them to come back and not only get those 7 wins, but had a chance up until, of course, the Eagles blowing out Dallas yesterday to still be in the running,
Yeah.
for the NFC East division. But to win 11 games is just, it's outstanding. It's the first time this team has got to 11 wins since 1991. Yes, I remember that. I was 16 years old in 1991. And yes, it was business in the front, party in the back. Yep, I had it. It was the year of the mullet. I rocked that, man. I did. Uh, but yeah, I mean the biggest thing, is that people always talk about like, I want to be able to experience what some of you old heads are always talking about. And I'm like, well, you're going to start to experience it now because here's the thing. Even last night when Washington got down by 10 points, I had this confidence that I'm like, okay, they're going to come back in the second half and they're going to do something about this. They're going to make adjustments. They're going to come back in. Jaden Daniels going to put the team on his shoulders. Something's going to happen, and that confidence. I mean, you go back and look at what happened last week against the Eagles and the confidence of, they didn't just roll over and die like they would have during the Dan Snyder era. They would have come back, or they probably would have just, packed it in and said, you know what, we're just not ready yet. But this team doesn't quit. And that's a reflection of the coaching staff. This has been an excellent coaching staff. It's been a great front office putting everything together. Ownership, it always starts at the top of the ownership. And, you have mentioned as well, another win, of course. We didn't really cover this, but, now the path is possibly cleared to build a new stadium at RFK. And so, to me, that's kind of almost like sacred grounds for this franchise. Excuse me. And but getting back to the football side of things, um, this team obviously does have some holes to fill. Offensive line has been a little shaky. Offensive line wasn't that great last week. Was not great last night. And, I've had a lot of conversations with Chicago Bears fans online because, they're talking about how, Caleb Williams could be better than Jaden Daniels. He has no offensive line. And I'm like, and they talk about such a much better offensive line in Washington. I'm like, it may be a better offensive line, but it's not a great offensive line.
Yeah.
It's not. And trust me, the reason why things work, number one, it is pace, it's misdirection,
Yep.
option type of offenses, and it's Jane Daniels having the ability. He's much further along than Caleb is right now. Doesn't mean that Caleb's not going to catch up with him and eventually pass him. He might. Caleb might turn around and be this generational quarterback that we're all kind of like, wow, how many more Super Bowls is he going to win? But at least in year one, Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback. Why is he the better quarterback? He's got a better vision of the field. He's able to beat you with his legs. He's got a accurate arm. He's still going to make some rookie mistakes, like last night with the defensive end there, the edge rusher dropping back into pass coverage and picking the football off. Things like that's going to happen. But he also knows how to correct those mistakes. And you didn't see that anymore the rest of the evening. So just outstanding. But yeah, offensive line, I'm going to be the Debbie Downer of this video. Anything that I feel like is a concern of me is offensive lines, the defense giving up so many rushing yards to Bijan Robinson, and then, of course, Saquon Barkley last week. I will say they did a really good job on those two running backs in the second half and making adjustments and shutting those guys down. But, I mean, maybe not shutting them down completely. Saquon, actually, I felt was, for all intents and purposes, more shut down in the second half last week than what Robinson was last night. But giving up a lot of rushing yards on the ground is a concern. And certainly the concern is Mike Davis had a horrible night last night as a corner. Horrible night. Of course, Marshawn Lattimore's hurt again. That's going to be a concern. Is he going to be ready for the playoffs? Because we're going to need him for the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably not going to play next week. I would assume he's not, because you do want him. You want to save him for the playoffs. So, so that's still a concern, and getting a little bit more pressure to the quarterback as well. I'd like to see more pressure. When Penix did get pressured, then he started kind of making some mistakes. But I will give a lot of credit to Michael Penix. I thought he looked outstanding last night.
Oh, yeah.
Atlanta has a lot of talent. Raheem Morris, he's got a good team there.
Yeah.
And I think next year you have Michael Penix starting. You've got an outstanding tight end there. You've got or tight end, wide receiver. I don't know. The guy's huge.
Right.
Michael Pitts, that dude is huge. Outstanding running back. I mean, you got a pretty decent defense as well. So, Atlanta's going to be a team to be reckoned with in the next few years, as well as Washington. So, these two teams on their ways up. Now we talk about next week, and we talk about the Commanders and a game that is meaningful, meaningless at the same time. They've already clinched a spot in the playoffs, and currently, right now, they hold the 6th seed.
Ooh.
So if they win next week against the Cowboys, they will, I think they'll keep that 6th seed. I'll have to check and see. But if they keep that 6th seed, then, there's going to be a question of, okay, are they playing the Rams or are they playing Tampa Bay? Would like to have another shot at Tampa Bay, because I think even Tampa Bay realizes, and Tampa Bay, of course, is our best friend this morning because we got them into the playoffs as well.
Yeah.
So, winning that division. So you're welcome, Tampa Bay. But
Right.
I would like to have another shot, because obviously this is a different Washington Commanders team than what Tampa Bay faced in week 1. So I'd love to see that matchup again. Would love to see them against the Rams. Certainly it would be. We know what type of matchup we have with the Eagles. We played them twice, and honestly, we could have probably beaten them twice. We fell apart in the fourth quarter in that first game, and second game, of course, we came back and won a thriller. So we know what we have with the Eagles. I think some fans are flat out scared at the idea of having to play the Eagles again. I'm not really scared. I'm like, you know what? You're going to have to punch these guys in the mouth, right? At some point. There's a good chance that if you don't play them in the wild card game and you're able to advance, you may wind up playing them, in the divisional round or playing them in the NFC's conference championship game. If you even make it that far, you're going to have to go through Detroit or Philadelphia at some point in the playoffs if you're going to make some noise. And so Brandon, you kind of hit on this before the video started. You're going to have to play them at some point. Might as well get them early. See if you can knock them out early. And if you do that, then sure, Eagles fans, we can talk about that being our Super Bowl or whatever, all you want to, but which is ridiculous. But I would like to see this team get into the playoffs and win a playoff game. They're in the playoffs now. Yeah. I would like to see them hold on to that 6th seed because I would like to see them see what they can do against the Rams, see what they can do against the Bucks. But if they got Philly again, let's do it. Let's battle again. Let's scrap. Let's see what happens. Both Commanders and Eagles fans have talked trash to each other. I've joined in with it. So, hey, you know what? It is what it is. If we play each other, then the winner of that game is going to have bragging rights until next season. So let's see what happens. But I am happy for this team to get into the playoffs. I feel like all of this is way too early. I feel like this should have been 2025. But if they're going to make the playoffs, let's see if they can make some noise. I'd love to see them for the first time in almost 20 years actually winning a playoff game in advance. And so I want to see that. But outside of that, Brandon, the other thing to talk about is leadership. This team has a lot of leadership on defense. Guys like, B-Wags, Luvu, guys like that. And then, of course, on the offensive side, Jaden Daniels has turned himself into leader. And you can just see that he just enjoys what he's doing. He's not out there looking shell-shocked. He's not out there looking nervous. He just goes out there, he makes plays, and he puts the team on his shoulders. And so he's a leader. He's a franchise guy. Now, a lot of people as well said, okay, well, this is only year one. Look what happened with Houston, So let's not get ahead of ourselves. And I think the difference is with that situation in Washington. Well, for starters, Jaden Daniels, think he entered, I could be wrong, think he entered the league a little bit older. He definitely had a lot more games under his belt already in college. Yeah. And so he, from the get-go, looked like a seasoned veteran. So I don't think you're going to see a sophomore slump with Jaden Daniels. But I'm not going to talk about next season yet because we're 11-5 next week. We beat Dallas. We'll be 12-5. We'll hold the 6th seed. If not, 11 wins is nothing to sneeze at. We're still in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
We'll draw Philly, and then we'll just battle them. And so it's great to know that this team, you look back, that feeling of just expecting them to win is starting to come back with me. And it's the same feeling I had during the Joe Gibbs era one, the first era. You just expected them to go out and compete and win more games than they lose. You expected them to make the playoffs every single year. And we're going to see this expectation with this new regime. And, it's already starting year one with all of these holes that we still need to fill on the offensive line, the defense. Just think what's going to happen when Adam Peters has finally finished building this team, the depth, getting those holes filled. If they can win 11, 12 games with this roster, what's going to happen later on when he completes his job, completes his task? Does he ever complete his task? Probably not. But when he finally gets to the point where it's like, this is a championship caliber roster. Because I think you and I, Brandon, probably agree this is probably not a championship roster, but it's a
No,
very
not
good
yet.
roster.
Oh yeah,
So if this team is somehow able to get into at least the NFC Championship game or just win a playoff game, that shows you that shows you the amazing progress that this franchise has taken. Like you said, just 2 years
yeah.
under Josh Harris's ownership, and things have already turned around in such a short time. It's amazing. It is so amazing. So moving forward, Brandon, what do you think what we will expect next week in Dallas? Do you think that Washington will rest some players? Do you think that they will keep their starters in at least maybe half of the game and try to put the game away? What do you think is going to happen?
Good question. What should happen and what I want to happen, I think are going to be two different things. I think what they should do, they're going to be a 6 seed regardless. So maybe, you play them a half and then sit them the second half. But a part of me wants to kind of put my foot on the neck of the Cowboys and just punish them for the last week, man, because I think we both kind of called it. Now we both called that we were going to split both games with both the Eagles and the Cowboys. So I think that maybe try to go out there and win it. Because I believe it's in their house. So I mean, going to Dallas and punch them in the mouth, I have no problem with that. But you also want to get people healthy too. Marshawn Lattimore, it is concerning to see, he's dealing with a lot of injuries, and it kind of makes you really think about why the trade package was so reasonable, because he's an all-pro talent. So we're able to get Marshawn Lattimore on the cheap. So with his injuries kind of a reason why? I think so, a little bit. We definitely want to see him get back to 100% because I think he still has a lot of football left in him, especially here in DC. We have an all-pro number one shutdown corner. I still think you go out there and get another shutdown corner, in my opinion. Have guys on both sides, and then Sam still put him in the slot. He played well in slot corner. And then I think we definitely have a really, really good secondary that can be a championship caliber secondary, especially when you add in, Chen, who I think you definitely bring him back. Quan Martin, another good piece. So we have a lot of important decisions going forward. But I kind of wanted to say this real quick. The people are saying they were kind of scared of the Eagles. To be the best, you got to be the best. And I would think that you would want the Eagles. I kind of remember now I wasn't there. I was a kid, but I remember the days at RFK when the stands were rocking, where they said we want Dallas. You want the best. And I think that from a perspective as far as mentality with the fan base, you want to play the Eagles. You want to play Detroit. To be the best, you have to beat the best. And I want the Eagles. I want Detroit. I want to see where we're at. I think that you definitely want to see us get a playoff win, but I think we're a year away from really, really challenging for a Super Bowl berth. And the second thing I want to bring up too is the Bears and Eagles fans. They've had a lot to say, and it is very surprising because the amount of excuses and junk that comes out of their mouths is hilarious. Number one, Caleb Williams. Look, I'm gonna call it like it is. I think I hope everybody succeeds, but he's overrated. They made him like he was the next coming, from USC and all that. Look, if you're drafted number one, you got to perform. You got 3 stud wide receivers. Why are you struggling, bro? And don't use the excuse old line. You should have used a draft pick on old line. You went out and got another receiver. Whose fault is that? Holler at your GM. Ain't our problem. So the Bears fans need to go ahead and shut it up, because Jane Daniels has performed at a MVP level. Now, obviously, because he's a rookie and you got talent like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen out there playing really good football, it's going to be between Jackson and Allen, in my opinion. And I think that you look at both of them and say that both of them are deserving, because Josh Allen's really stepped it up this year and Buffalo's really reached new heights, and Baltimore's always in it to win it, man. So, Lamar Jackson's always in the conversation, but the Bears fans didn't even worry about themselves, because we got 11 wins, baby. Be quiet. The Eagles, the
I
Eagles, what
love
are you
it.
talking? You know
Be
what I mean?
quiet.
Like, yeah, what's there to say? The Eagles, what are you talking about now? You guys talked all that junk when you beat us, and now all of a sudden your excuse is, oh, it's only Kenny Pickett. Oh my God, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Take an L with some class. Stop it.
I mean,
I
a
mean,
Kenny led team put up 40 points, 40 plus points on the Cowboys yesterday. So
I'm just saying. And then when we beat the Eagles, what was the last year, the year before on Monday Night Football, who was our quarterback? So you got whooped by a backup quarterback. So
We basically have
stop.
had backup quarterbacks for the last 25 plus years, I feel like.
I know. So I mean, come on now. Let's stop with the excuses, man. I mean, take the loss with some class. I mean, you guys have no problem making your presence felt when you win a game. Now, when you lose, you want to come up with all these excuses. Bears fans and Eagles fans, look, they need to humble themselves, man. Because look, we've sit through 20 plus years of mediocrity, man. We deserve this. And stop trying to take away from Jaden Daniels. He has played his butt off. He has
Yeah.
worked his tail off, man. I mean, he has really done a great job here in Washington as a rookie. Stop trying to take away from him. Caleb Williams, that's all about roster construction, Greg. If O-line was such a critical area of need, then you would have spent that pick that you put on Rome Odunze. You would have got a left tackle, but you didn't. You went out there and got another receiver. So that's not my problem. So, I like where we're at. I like the fact that we can kind of pump our chests out like we could back in the day now, because look, we're going to be a powerhouse. Like I said, we're going to be able to get the stadium back in DC. We're going to be a reputable organization again. And I definitely want to see us kind of go back to the days of Jack and Cook and really gain that power back, because people forget how powerful of an owner Jack and Cook was. He was powerful before he became our owner. I mean, people forget he was actually the owner of the Los Angeles Lakers during the Showtime Lakers with Magic Johnson and that team. So he knows how to, he knew how to build organizations into powerful businesses. I want to see that with Josh Harris, because, it's a very similar owner. He has the 76ers where, 76ers ain't looking too hot this year, but still, they have been a really good team in the Eastern Conference in the NBA for years, the last 10, 15 years, and New Jersey Devils. So he knows how to build teams. He's brought all the right pieces in. Josh, Adam Peters, wow. I mean, look at the draft class and look at the free agent class that he had. I mean, he did a great job. I mean, you look at guys like Johnny Newton. At first, I was like, why are we drafting a defensive tackle? But then you look at it, we got a starting caliber defensive tackle in the second round that you could pretty much say goodbye to Jonathan Allen or Jerome Payne. I think one of them are definitely going to be shopped and moved at some point.
Well, I mean, we said goodbye to Fedorian Mathis this week.
There you go. I mean, they're cleaning the house, Greg. They're cleaning the house. I mean, Emmanuel Forbes is watching the playoffs from the house. I don't mean to laugh, but it is what it is. I mean, they're cleaning the house. Jamin Davis, he cleared out all these guys from the Ron Rivera era, which is, there's some kind of breaking news, I guess. Ron Rivera is actually the candidate for the Jets job. So, hey, that's
Hey, Jets, think about it. If you hire Ron Rivera and you're not too happy with ownership, there's a good chance ownership's going to change during the Ron Rivera era. So just think about that.
Yeah, man. So things are going to change. Ron Rivera, that's a whole nother conversation. Good guy, great human being, not a good GM, decent coach. But if you're going to hire him, keep him out of the GM's office. Go leave the GM to the GM. But we're heading in the right direction. This is very refreshing to see this type of success very early on. For people like myself, about to turn 40. Yes, I'm still young. I mean, 7 years in the Army, man, I feel a little old, but it's really gratifying to see them have the success. I like having a grown man at quarterback. I really do. Jaden Daniels fits the mold in so many ways, Greg. I mean, he's cool under pressure. He's a grown man who he's always got a smile on his face, but he's humble. It's just wow. I'm ready for the future. So I'm gonna end it there, man. I'm ready for what's next.
Yeah, and just if there's any advice that I can give fans of other teams that are struggling, that feel like, I'm thinking about Chicago Bears, I'm thinking about the Carolina Panthers, the New York Jets, these teams, Browns, these teams I feel like are perennial losers, just like how we have been I felt like for the last 25 plus years. Not a whole lot, I mean, that you can really do about it. It really starts from the top. And you have to recognize that. And we, unfortunately, what happens is when you don't have good ownership, you're not going to get the best coaching candidates. They're not going to want to come here. Players are not going to want to come there. And so you really have to, unfortunately, hope and pray that you get better ownership. It's not futile for us, especially since we're Commanders fans, to sit back and say, well, Chicago, what you really should have done besides picking Caleb Williams, you really should have traded down, gotten even more picks, and you still would have gotten a chance to draft a pretty decent quarterback in the first round. You would have gotten offensive line help, all this stuff. But, would have, could have, should have. They didn't do that. You had what I consider pretty decent quarterback already in Justin Fields. So, yeah, all I can say is you hope that ownership changes. You hope that with ownership change that you can get a good front office in there. But that's really what it starts. It starts from up on top. And I've been lucky enough that I've been able to witness the glory years. I was old enough to go through all of that, and witness the glory years. And it's weird because I'm still only 30 years old. Well, plus a couple other decades, but and then having to sit through about 25 plus years of just bad team management, bad ownership. It's rough, and what can you say? After a while, you kind of get scabbed over and you just realize it is what it is. And, you just hope that maybe the team will get lucky and be good enough to make the playoffs once in a while, to remind yourself why you're still rooting for the team. But for us, we do deserve this. We've went through so much. So if we get excited because we beat a team that is supposedly picked to go to the Super Bowl, yeah, if you want to call that our Super Bowl, fine, call it our Super Bowl. But we're in the postseason, so we're still going to be vying. We're still going to be vying for a chance at the real Super Bowl. And I'm telling you, when you get into the postseason, everything is different. It's 0-0. There is just, it's a different atmosphere. It's a different level that these teams tend to kick in. So you see some great football during the regular season, just like we did last night, but there's something different about the postseason. And you start to see these players kick it up a notch and they do something that you just don't see during the regular season. So that's what makes me excited, nervous, and whatnot for the postseason. Can't wait to see it. But folks, I think other than that, we're going to say that hell to the Washington Commanders, hell to the Redskins.
Oh yeah,
one more game left to go in the season. Did want to quickly just it's not a political channel, but just did want to say that we want to honor former President Jimmy Carter, who passed away at the age of 100. So he lived a long, fruitful life. A lot of people will say not the best president, but he was a humanitarian, very strong Christian man, did so much for people. He had a heart for people. Well, if I agree with his politics or not, doesn't matter. He was a great man. So, just want to honor him, and hopefully he is dancing in paradise with Jesus this morning. So, just want to keep keep his family in your thoughts and prayers. That said, we will see you in the next one. Hell to the Washington Commanders, and peace out.